Welcome to the next chapter in the fundamental series, and today we are going to describe what is Azure Bastion. Well, if you're already working in Azure and you're aware of it, you can skip this, but if you're a beginner and you want to know about Azure Bastion for our certification exam, then watch it. It would be a very small video. We just need to understand what it is and what are the benefits that it provides us and how it is different and when to use it, those kind of stuff. That's how we're going to describe it. So what I'll do, I'll share my screen and take you through with mind maps. I call them mind maps, where we'll be designing and moving the maps around. Let me share my screen. All right, so while I'm sharing my screen, let me also start talking about the stuff. Hope you can see my screen now. So what is Azure Bastion? Let me write that down here as well. It will keep us on the Azure Bastion. Describe. Okay, this is what our chapter is that we need to understand. So we all know what the Bastion is. If you are coming from some different background, you might be calling it jump box. That's what the Bastion is. And we know why we need jump box, because we need to jump into the private network when we are coming from outside or the internet. That's why we need the Bastion server. So in a traditional model, you would need to expose RDP or SSH ports to the internet, and you land on the jump box or the Bastion server first, and then you hit the private network. That's how it's supposed to be. If I need to represent you, let's suppose this is your VNet and we have multiple VMs here. Let's say these are the VMs or our resources inside the Azure, and these all has the private IP address from this virtual network. So if you are sitting outside this virtual network on your laptop maybe, then how will you going to access these VMs, right? How you're going to manage them? That's the question. Well, traditionally, or until these kind of services were not there, like Azure Bastion, which is a managed service, we used to create one VM here as a jump box or Bastion server, where we have exposed the RDP port here so that we can get in, right? Here, some port is exposed. Now, there are multiple ways that you can expose it. Maybe you're keeping it behind the load balancer, doing the port forwarding, or maybe you are getting like using the point to site VPN to get into this particular jump box and then accessing the other VMs. There are multiple ways, but the usual way was your management ports are exposed outside, which is not a good practice. And that's how people used to access it from here. So what will Bastion do? Bastion will take care of this thing. There would not be any public IP here. There would not be any port exposed on the internet. And it is a managed service. So you need not to spin up even a VM. Not spinning up a VM means no management, less admin overhead. You need not to patch it. You need not to keep on looking whether it is up or not, right? So if we need to conclude it or describe it, it is very simple now. You can simply describe in your head, if you are listening to me right now, Azure Bastion provides secure and seamless RDP or SSH if it is a Linux kind of machines, those kind of connectivity to your virtual machines directly from the Azure portal. That using TLS, transport layer security. When you connect via Azure Bastion, your virtual machines don't need a public IP address, agent, or a special client of software. So that's what the Azure Bastion is. If I have, it's running right here. For example, this is the VM. And if you go, you try to click on connect, there is an option of Bastion. You click on Bastion, and I don't have any Bastion here right now, but you can click on use Bastion, provide the ID and password of the virtual machine, and you can simply get into the, there would be, the RDP will come up on the browser. Okay. And as I said, you need not to manage any public IP or any virtual machine for it. Okay, so it's a managed service which provide you secure and seamless RDP or SSH to your virtual machines directly from the Azure portal on TLS. That's what the Azure Bastion is. Now, what are the key features of Azure Bastion? We need to understand that as well. Okay. So let's start. Let me write down here the key features of the Bastion. So the very first key feature is that we explain what it is. You can directly RDP or SSH from the Azure portal. Okay. Remote session over TLS and firewall travel over RDP SSH. It simply means Azure Bastion use an HTML5 based web client that is automatically streamed to your local device. You'll get your RDP and SSH to traverse the corporate firewall securely. So TLS based and directly from the portal. All right, then no public IP needed. And no VM needed or needed to manage, needed to spin up. So if we do not have VM, we do not have IP, then of course there is no hassle of managing NSGs for the Bastion. And this will also, because there is nothing opening outside, so of course it will give you protection against port scanning, because you don't need to expose your VM to the internet, right? Now, a fully platform managed service, as I said, managed service, PaaS service, because it sits at the perimeter of your virtual network. You don't need to worry about hardening each virtual machine in the virtual network. As I said, no management, no hardening, no patching. So that's what the Azure Bastion is, and these are the features. That's all we need to know for this certification. I hope you learned something new today, and take care. Bye-bye.